Alright, so we've gone out and we've flown our first lesson today, and that was pretty good. I was impressed.
Yeah.
And
you're speaking too soon. This is part 4 covering my tailwheel training from start to finish, and CFI Keith and I are heading over to San Marcos in the Super Cub to find a crosswind. Like the previous 3 videos in this series, this one is going to be pretty technical in regard to me just explaining my way through what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong, and why a landing turned out a certain way it did. The reason I'm making these videos is not only to show them to my audience, but also give myself a chance to take a close, in-depth look at what I'm doing wrong on camera. In the previous video, Keith and I reviewed 3-point landings, and then we moved on to practicing wheel landings again, and they weren't going as well as I had hoped they would. I figured out that I was making the same mistake on landing that's very common amongst student pilots first learning to land, and that was humbling. Check out part 3 for that. I also picked apart a heap of things I was messing up, including not pulling power out fast enough and not getting the stick forward fast enough after touchdown. At this point, I've had the realization that I was not looking down the runway during the flare. Instead, I was focusing too much on the pavement right in front of the airplane. That was causing me to anticipate the ground contact and would make the landing harder all around, even resulting in several go-arounds. We've taken a break on the ground to discuss some crosswind landing techniques, and effectively the idea is to do a wheel landing with a side slip to combat the crosswind. We'll start this video on our way into San Marcos to pick one of the 3 runways to make sure we're going to have a crosswind, and crosswind operations is the final topic we need to cover before completing the tailwheel endorsement.
Piper Papa, tell me your type airplane again, please.
We're a Piper Super Cub PA-18.
Super Cub, effect, thank you.
Alright, so we've gone out and we've flown our first lesson today, and that was pretty good. I was impressed.
Yeah.
And
you're speaking too soon.
oh, we can take. Oh, it's just horrible, Josh.
Yeah, I know.
So wheel landings are primarily used for crosswinds. It's primarily what we're going to use them for. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to San Marcos. They have multiple runways, and we can pick one, work with Tower, and get a runway that'll work for some crosswind. And we're not looking for like one that's 90 degrees. We're just try to get one that's a little bit off.
Get a little bit of crab on final.
Yeah. So so I have to make it work a little bit.
All right, we're at 55. Nice. All right, you can go whenever you.
Ultimately, I don't really have any notes on that landing. It was pretty good. The touchdown was nice and smooth because my eyes were down at the end of the runway and I was just letting the runway come to me. And as soon as the tires touched the ground, I brought the power to idle and brought the stick forward. And that's very apparent there in the video. I did it just as soon as my brain could react that the wheels had touched the ground. I went stick forward, power to idle, and that helped us stick the main wheels to the ground instead of doing this bounce and porpoise thing that I was doing in part 3. The next landing after this was not as good, but it wasn't terrible, so let's just go ahead and go through it and see what I did wrong on that one.
That was way too much.
Yeah, I felt the sink coming there.
All right. Stick forward. There you go. You got aileron in the wind. Aileron in the wind. There you go. Back. All right, clean it up.
Like Keith pointed out in the round out right there, I did add too much power to arrest the sink right there. I felt it in my butt in the seat, I felt the airplane was about to hit a sink. We were starting to kind of descend rapidly, and just to catch it and keep it from descending toward the runway too fast and me having to yank the stick back and get it into an unstable situation, I just juiced the power, which is honestly not really what I should have done, at least to that degree. Should have just added a little bit of power and a little bit of back stick, and that would have arrested the sink rate just enough, and it would have been a nice stable situation. And also, after I added that power, I watch my hand here fluctuating the power during that whole kind of flare, holding it off the runway, and I'm waiting for the touchdown. I really shouldn't be doing that. I should be setting the power at the beginning of the round out and adjust my sink rate with the stick. At least that's what Keith and I concluded later. I was adjusting the power too much. And I think that kind of screwed me up on this landing, but I do sort of fix that on the next landing.
Nice. Good. All right, clean it up. All right, take the hill on. I'll accelerate. There you go. All right, good.
So right off the bat, you can see that we do have a legitimate crosswind on this landing, because right there, kind of in the round out and the flare, you see that we're in a bit of a right bank. That is a side slip. So I've actually got a bit of rudder in there, and I'm keeping that wing down into the wind. The upwind wing is down. That means we have a bit of a crosswind coming from the right. The unfavorable part of this landing was that bounce right at the touchdown, but here's the important thing. I pulled the power to idle. And because of the bounce, we did get airborne for just a brief second, but I didn't have that excess power in there to keep us flying. It was a very gentle bounce. We came up and we came right back down, but the important thing is I maintained positive control. And a dead giveaway that this was a crosswind landing is look at this wheelie. And just like Keith said on the rollout there, keep working it, keep flying the airplane. And you can see my feet were going crazy on the rudder trying to keep it straight, and I had that aileron in there, and I gently let the other wheel come down, and then eventually the tail came down. So we were both actually pretty happy with that landing. A bit of a bounce, but I handled it and I recovered from it. The important thing is to keep positive control of the airplane and keep flying it. I think Keith and I were both pretty happy with the following landing as well. We'll take a look at that one, and then after that we had a not so good landing.
Come right down. How about the time you do the round out, just before that, just go ahead and add that, put the power in, get that 1500 in. Let's put it in right now. Alright, so now you got that stable. Alright, now just keep it coming down. There you go, good. Just hold it off and let the ground come to you. There you go. Keep it going straight. There you go. You're a little late on that stick forward. There. Feel me on that one? I pushed it forward.
I did.
Alright, there we go. Alright, it's all you.
Not only was I a little late on the stick forward, I was also a little late on the power to idle as well. But also what overall just didn't help that landing was the fact that it was a bit of a bounce. I just came down a little bit hard. And that could be a number of things. Maybe the power setting just wasn't quite right. Maybe my eyes weren't in the right spot during the flare. And that's something that I really just can't tell from video. Obviously, every single landing is going to be different. What I'm trying to do here is nail down the actual technique things that I'm doing wrong. Just like being late on the stick or late on the throttle. But a round out and a flare just not quite going as planned, and you come down just a little bit harder, and that's really just something that takes practice. And that leads me to the next landing, landing number 5 in this video, which actually results in a go-around.
Now go ahead and set the power. Now you're looking outside.
If I win the number,
Keep it coming down.
report right down for runway 8.
Headed right downwind for runway 8, 1 November Delta.
1 November Delta, traffic is Cessna opposite direction, is currently 3 east of the airport eastbound.
A little round out that time. Okay.
Looking for traffic, 1 November Delta.
Keith said it looked like I did the round out just a little bit high on that. I certainly agree. That's definitely what caused the bounce. I did the round out just a little bit high, and it caused us to lose energy with too much altitude, and we just sort of dropped down to the runway. But you should never ever hesitate to go around. It was enough of a bounce that those big bush tires sprung us back up into the air to the point where I would have had to gun the power and give it more energy so we wouldn't come plopping back down to the runway again. And you can see that it took no more than a second for me to decide that we're going around, and I rammed the power to full. So on the next landing, I do have the controls, but Keith is back there also on the controls, and he's going to be helping me and guiding me through this landing, because we kind of determined that I'm treating the wheel landing more like a flare, whereas the way Keith puts it is it's a low pass, and you're just staying right above the runway until the wheels touch, and then once you roll it on, power to idle, stick forward. And then happy feet, which means just dance on the rudder and keep that tail and nose as straight as you can.
Let him go back to idle, which it was. Alright, airspeed aim point, airspeed aim point. We're looking good still. Yeah, trim it up for it. Alright, we have a little bit of a right crosswind. Alright, anticipating that. Alright, so here we go. Keep it coming down. Add the power right here, about 1500. Alright, keep the nose down. Keep it coming down. Alright, now I like to think of this as a low pass. I'm doing a low pass that's level. Okay. There you go. And roll it on. Stick forward. Happy feet. See how that works? Yeah. Alright, it's all you. So it's kind of like a low pass instead of trying to flare?
Yeah. I think I'm trying to flare too much.
Yeah.
That was a good demonstration by Keith that it's more of a low pass, not necessarily a flare to the landing. And other than that, there's really not much to say about that one. We're going to try that very technique on this next landing. Tower put us over on runway 8 instead of 3-1, but we were still getting a pretty decent crosswind. So this will be the last landing at San Marcos, and then we're going to depart the area back to the east toward Lockhart.
Magic 9 off Charles, San Marcos ground, runway 8, taxi to the Alpha.
Nice. Keep working it. Nice.
San Marcos Tower, Skyhawk 551, November Delta, midfield down.
This is 551 November Delta, San Marcos Tower, runway 1, Crosswind, exit, runway 8, clear for Chingu.
Clear Century Delta, runway 1 November Delta.
Tower Super Cub 90653 free pump. We're going to go ahead and switch to Lockhart CTAF. We really appreciate your help.
Go 535, frequency change approved, the altimeter is 29907, have a great day.
You too, thanks. Lockhart traffic, Super Cub 53 Papa, turning on a left base, runway 36, full stop, Lockhart. Lockhart traffic, Super Cub 53 Papa, about to turn to final, runway 36, full stop, Lockhart. Do a little gentle slip right here.
Golf is turning downwind for runway 35, Taylor.
Alright, you went forward with the stick and then you brought it back.
Yeah, I noticed that. I guess why I'm bringing it back is I'm just worried about it nosing over. Is that an unreasonable fear? Like, will it generally catch itself?
On a smooth runway, it's an unreasonable fear. So on a like we were doing on the grass, yeah, that, in fact, almost on a grass, I'll still do a 3-point.
Right. Well, do you feel good about that one?
Yeah, I'm good.
It was fun going over and to a different runway. Now it's wider, so there's some different illusions and stuff like that. But great job. We have accomplished everything that's required for a TAILWHEEL endorsement, so I am going to endorse you today. Congratulations on that.
Appreciate that.
But it's the license to learn.
It is a license to learn, absolutely. And like I told you on the way over here, I said, well, hey, let's figure out a time when I get back from this trip for us to go fly more, because I want to get more practice.
Great job today. Enjoy it. It was a lot of fun. And looking forward to the next time we go fly. And can't wait to see the next video.
Yeah, I know. Well, let me get to editing these, and then and then we'll talk about flying some more. But you're right. You're absolutely right. This is a license to learn, and we're going to continue learning.
You bet. You bet.
I need it.
You bet.
Just like Keith said, it's a license to learn. My landings weren't perfect today, but they were at the point where I at least understand what needs to be done and can demonstrate it. But not every landing is perfect. Keith was able to see that for the most part the landings were decent, but when they weren't, I was able to either diffuse the situation or go around and get out of it. And aside from understanding and demonstrating the basics of tailwheel flying, that's what matters. The rest is practice, 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 and this was incredibly educational for me, not just in the sense that it taught me the basics of flying a tailwheel, but that it also put me back in the shoes of a student pilot. As a flight instructor, I can't begin to explain how valuable that is. It's so easy for us to lose the perspective that a student pilot sees the training from on each lesson, and holding on to that perspective makes us better CFIs all around. I hope you got something out of this series, whether it was a mistake that you were making, that you saw me making, or maybe it lit a fire in you to get out and go practice more. Whatever it is, I'm delighted to share my experiences with all of you, and if you have any feedback for me, please feel free to leave a comment down below. If you'd like to support Aviation 101, you can shop merch and gear at aviation101.com/store, and if you want to join the exclusive community and get access to live streams, full-length flights, and more, you can learn more at aviation101.com/cockpit club. Links are down in the description. Until next time, I'd like you to get out and polish some skills you haven't exercised in a while. Maybe get that next rating or endorsement and keep improving yourself, your attitude, and your skills. Thanks again for watching this Tailwheel series. I want you to stay happy, stay healthy, stay current, and of course, stay proficient. And we'll see you in the next series. Fly safe.